In a world where celebrity
I've
encounters are
always
often
loved you. You
staged
know that?
and carefully orchestrated, something truly magical happened on a crisp autumn morning at Hampton Court Palace. When Britain's beloved Queen Consort Camilla crossed paths with the nation's most treasured actress, Dame Judi Dench, neither expected the profound connection that would unfold between them. What began as a chance meeting during a royal visit became a heartwarming reminder that genuine human moments can transcend titles, fame, and protocol. This is the true story of two remarkable women who discovered they shared more than just their love for British heritage. They found in each other kindred spirits who understood the weight of public expectation, the joy of artistic passion, and the simple pleasure of an authentic conversation. In an age of digital connections and fleeting interactions, their encounter at Hampton Court became a testament to the enduring power of genuine human connection. The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestones of Hampton Court Palace as Queen Camilla stepped out of the royal car, her elegant navy coat catching the October breeze. The historic palace, once home to King Henry VIII, stood majestically before her, its red brick towers reaching toward the cloudy English sky. Today was no ordinary visit for the Queen Consort. She had come to officially open a new exhibition celebrating women's contributions to British theater, a cause close to her heart. As Camilla walked through the palace gates, flanked by her security detail and palace officials, she couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The exhibition, titled Queens of the Stage, would showcase the remarkable journey of British actresses from Shakespeare's time to the present day. The organizers had spent months carefully curating artifacts, costumes, and personal items from some of Britain's most celebrated performers. The Queen Consort had always been passionate about the arts, particularly theater. During her younger years, before royal duties consumed her time, she had been an avid theatergoer, often seen in the front rows of West End productions. Her appreciation for the craft went beyond mere entertainment. She understood the dedication, vulnerability, and sheer talent required to bring characters to life on stage. Inside the palace, the Great Hall buzzed with activity. Curators made final adjustments to display cases, photographers tested their equipment, and palace staff ensured every detail was perfect for the royal opening. The exhibition promised to be extraordinary, featuring costumes worn by legendary actresses, handwritten letters revealing their thoughts on various roles, and interactive displays allowing visitors to experience the magic of theatrical performance. What made this particular exhibition special was its focus on the evolution of women's roles in British theater. From the Restoration period when women were finally allowed to perform on stage, to the modern era where actresses like Dame Judi Dench had redefined what it meant to be a leading lady, the exhibition told a story of perseverance, talent, and transformation. Camilla paused at the entrance to the exhibition space, taking a moment to appreciate the significance of the occasion. The palace walls seemed to whisper stories of the past, of royal patronage of the arts, and of the countless performers who had entertained monarchs throughout the centuries. She felt honored to be part of this continuing tradition. The exhibition coordinator, a nervous but enthusiastic woman named Sarah Mitchell, approached the Queen Consort with barely contained excitement. She had worked for 3 years to bring this exhibition to life, collaborating with theaters, museums, and private collectors across the United Kingdom. For Sarah, having the Queen Consort open the exhibition was the ultimate validation of her work. As they prepared to begin the official tour, Camilla noticed the careful attention to detail in every display. Elizabethan ruffs were positioned next to Victorian corsets, showing how costume design had evolved with changing times. Interactive screens allowed visitors to hear recordings of famous performances, bringing the voices of legendary actresses back to life within the palace walls. The first section of the exhibition focused on the early days of women in theater. Camilla learned about actresses like Nell Gwynn, who had captured the heart of King Charles II, and Sarah Siddons, whose powerful performances had revolutionized tragic acting in the 18th century. Each display case told a story of determination, as these women fought against societal expectations to pursue their passion for performance. What struck Camilla most was the universal nature of the challenges these women had faced. Whether in the 17th century or the 20th, actresses had struggled to be taken seriously, to balance personal life with professional ambition, and to age gracefully in an industry that often valued youth above experience. These themes resonated deeply with the queen consort, who had faced her own public scrutiny and criticism throughout her journey to the throne. As they moved through the exhibition, Sarah explained how each artifact had been chosen to represent a different aspect of theatrical life. There were makeup compacts used by famous actresses, revealing the intimate rituals of preparation before stepping onto the stage. Personal letters showed the human side of these larger-than-life figures, their doubts, hopes, and dreams laid bare in elegant handwriting. One display case particularly caught Camilla's attention. It contained a collection of programs from various Royal Command performances, showing how the monarchy and theater had maintained a close relationship throughout the centuries. She smiled as she recognized some of the venues, and even remembered attending a few of these special performances herself. The exhibition also addressed the changing nature of what it meant to be a leading lady. In earlier eras, actresses were often typecast in specific roles, limited by societal expectations of femininity and propriety. However, as the displays showed, women had gradually broken these barriers, taking on more complex and challenging roles that reflected the changing status of women in society. Camilla paused at a section dedicated to Shakespearean actresses, marveling at how each generation had brought fresh interpretation to these timeless roles. From Lady Macbeth to Cleopatra, these characters had served as vehicles for actresses to showcase their range and depth, often revealing new layers of meaning in familiar texts. The technology integrated into the exhibition impressed the queen consort. Visitors could use tablets to access additional information about each display, watch video interviews with contemporary actresses, and even try their hand at delivering famous monologues. This interactive approach made the exhibition accessible to visitors of all ages and backgrounds. As they reached the midpoint of their tour, Camilla reflected on how theater had served as both entertainment and social commentary throughout British history. The exhibition showed how actresses had often been at the forefront of social change, using their platforms to address important issues and challenge conventional thinking. The queen consort was particularly moved by a section dedicated to actresses who had continued performing well into their later years, defying industry pressure to step aside for younger talent. These women had paved the way for a more inclusive understanding of what it meant to be a leading lady, showing that talent and experience only improved with age. Sarah explained how the exhibition would travel to other venues across the United Kingdom after its run at Hampton Court, ensuring that people throughout the country could experience these incredible stories. Educational programs had been developed to accompany the exhibition, bringing the magic of theater into schools and community centers. The morning was progressing beautifully, with everything going according to plan. Camilla was thoroughly enjoying the tour, asking thoughtful questions and showing genuine interest in every aspect of the exhibition. The palace staff were pleased with how smoothly everything was running, and the media representatives were capturing wonderful images of the queen consort engaging with the displays. As they approached the final section of the exhibition, neither Camilla nor Sarah had any idea that their carefully planned morning was about to become extraordinary. The final section focused on contemporary actresses, featuring recent acquisitions and special loans from private collections. It was here that an unexpected encounter would transform a routine royal visit into something truly memorable. The queen consort continued through the exhibition with growing enthusiasm, unaware that in just a few moments, she would come face to face with one of Britain's most beloved actresses in a meeting that would touch both their hearts and remind everyone present of the simple power of genuine human connection. While Queen Camilla continued her tour through the exhibition, across London, Dame Judi Dench was experiencing one of those perfectly ordinary mornings that would soon become extraordinary. The 88-year-old actress sat in her comfortable study, surrounded by scripts, photographs, and the comfortable clutter of a life dedicated to the arts. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the numerous awards and mementos that marked her decades-long career. Dame Judi had not planned to leave her home that morning. Her schedule showed a quiet day of reading scripts and preparing for upcoming interviews about her latest project. At her age, she had earned the right to be selective about her public appearances, choosing only those events that truly mattered to her. The theater exhibition at Hampton Court had been on her mind, but she had not committed to visiting, unsure if her energy levels would permit such an outing. Her assistant, Margaret, had been gently encouraging her to attend the exhibition's opening day. "You know, Judi, they have some wonderful pieces from your early career on display," Margaret had mentioned over tea the previous evening. "That costume from your Lady Macbeth at the Old Vic is there, and some of your personal notes about the role." Dame Judi had smiled at the memory, remembering how nervous she had been taking on such an iconic character early in her career. The decision to visit Hampton Court came suddenly, as many of Dame Judi's best decisions did. She had been reading an interview with a young actress who spoke about the importance of understanding theatrical history, and something about the girl's enthusiasm reminded Dame Judi of her own early passion for the craft. The thought struck her that perhaps she should see how her own small contribution to that history was being presented. "Margaret," she called from her study, "do you suppose we could manage a trip to Hampton Court this morning?" Her assistant was delighted by the spontaneous decision, quickly making the necessary arrangements. Dame Judi's security detail was notified, a car was arranged, and within an hour, the beloved actress was on her way to the palace. The drive through London gave Dame Judi time to reflect on her relationship with Hampton Court. She had performed there several times over the years, both in her younger days with various touring companies and later for special royal events. The palace held particular significance for any British actor, representing the deep connection between royalty and theater that stretched back centuries. As their car approached the palace, Dame Judi noticed the increased security and media presence that indicated a royal visit was taking place. She felt a moment of uncertainty, wondering if she should perhaps return another day when the palace would be less crowded. However, Margaret assured her that they had been expected, and the exhibition organizers would be thrilled to have such a distinguished visitor, regardless of the timing. Dame Judi had met various members of the royal family over the years, most notably when she had been awarded her damehood. She remembered Queen Elizabeth II's genuine warmth and intelligence, and had always held great respect for the institution of monarchy and its support of the arts. The idea that Queen Camilla was at that moment touring an exhibition that featured her own work filled her with a mixture of pride and humility. Upon arrival at Hampton Court, Dame Judi was greeted by James Crawford, the palace's deputy curator, who had specifically requested her presence for the exhibition. James had worked tirelessly to acquire some of Dame Judi's personal items for display, including handwritten notes she had made while preparing for various roles and photographs from her early days at the Old Vic. "Dame Judi, what a wonderful surprise," James said, his excitement barely contained. "We had hoped you might visit, but we didn't dare expect it on such short notice." He explained that Queen Camilla was currently touring the exhibition and suggested that perhaps they might arrange a brief meeting if Dame Judi was amenable to the idea. The actress felt a flutter of nervousness, not about meeting royalty, but about encountering her own career displayed as historical artifacts. There was something both flattering and slightly unsettling about seeing one's life work presented in museum cases, labeled and explained for posterity. It reminded her that she had indeed become part of the very history she had spent her career celebrating. James led Dame Judi through a side entrance to avoid the main crowds and media attention. They paused in a small anteroom where she could see through to the main exhibition space. In the distance, she could observe Queen Camilla engaged in animated conversation with the exhibition coordinator, clearly enjoying her tour. The Queen Consort's genuine interest and enthusiasm were evident even from a distance. "She's been absolutely wonderful," James whispered to Dame Judi, asking thoughtful questions, really engaging with every display. She clearly has a deep appreciation for theater. This pleased Dame Judi enormously, as she had always believed that the arts needed champions at every level of society, including at the very top. Dame Judi spent a few minutes observing the Queen Consort's interaction with the exhibition. She noticed how Camilla paused at each display, reading every placard carefully and asking follow-up questions that demonstrated genuine curiosity rather than mere politeness. This authentic engagement impressed the actress, who had seen too many public figures go through the motions at cultural events. The section of the exhibition dedicated to Dame Judi's career was particularly comprehensive. James had managed to acquire the costume from her breakthrough performance as Ophelia, complete with the original staging notes from the director. There were programs from her various Shakespearean roles, photographs from her time with the Royal Shakespeare Company, and even a handwritten letter she had sent to her agent after her first major review. What moved Dame Judi most was a display featuring items from her later career renaissance, when she had successfully transitioned from stage to screen and found new audiences through her work in films. The exhibition showed how she had defied industry expectations about aging actresses, continuing to take on challenging and diverse roles well into her 70s and beyond. James had also included some of Dame Judi's advocacy work for arts education, showing how she had used her platform to support young performers and preserve theatrical traditions. Letters from drama students she had mentored were displayed alongside programs from charity performances she had participated in throughout her career. As they watched Queen Camilla progress through the exhibition, Dame Judi reflected on how theater had evolved during her lifetime. When she had started her career, the industry was far more rigid in its expectations and limitations. Women were often confined to specific types of roles, and the idea of an actress continuing to work successfully into her 80s would have been almost unthinkable. The exhibition beautifully captured this evolution, showing how actresses like Dame Judi had gradually expanded the possibilities for women in theater. Each display case represented not just individual achievement, but collective progress in how society viewed women's potential and value beyond youth. Margaret, who had accompanied Dame Judi, was equally impressed by the exhibition's scope and quality. She had worked with the actress for over a decade and had seen firsthand the dedication and professionalism that had marked her career. To see these qualities recognized and celebrated in such a prestigious venue was deeply satisfying. The atmosphere in the palace was electric with the excitement of the royal visit, but there was also a reverent quality to the space. Hampton Court itself seemed to approve of this celebration of theatrical heritage, its ancient walls having witnessed centuries of performance and artistic expression. The combination of royal patronage and theatrical history created a perfect setting for what was about to unfold. As Queen Camilla approached the section featuring Dame Judi's career, James made the decision to introduce the two women. He had initially planned to wait until the royal tour was complete, but the timing seemed perfect. Both women were clearly enjoying themselves, and the natural flow of the visit seemed to call for this special moment. Dame Judi felt her heartbeat quicken slightly as James approached the Queen Consort's group to make the introduction. She had performed before royalty numerous times, but there was something particularly meaningful about meeting in this context, surrounded by the artifacts and memories of her life's work. She smoothed her jacket and prepared to greet Queen Camilla, having no idea that this encounter would become one of the most touching and authentic moments either woman had experienced in their very public lives. The stage was set for a meeting that would transcend protocol and formality, creating a genuine connection between two remarkable women who had dedicated their lives to serving the British public in very different, but equally meaningful ways. The moment James Crawford approached Queen Camilla's group, the atmosphere in the exhibition space seemed to shift subtly. The Queen Consort was standing before a display case containing Dame Judi's original costume from her acclaimed performance as Lady Bracknell in The Importance of Being Earnest, reading the accompanying description with evident interest. The intricate Victorian-era dress, with its elaborate beadwork and careful preservation, represented not just a costume, but a moment in theatrical history. "Your Majesty," James said with appropriate deference, "I have the great honor of informing you that Dame Judi Dench has arrived and would very much like to meet you, if you have a moment." He gestured discreetly toward where Dame Judi stood with Margaret, both women maintaining a respectful distance while observing the royal tour. Queen Camilla's face immediately lit up with genuine delight. "Dame Judi is here? How absolutely wonderful!" she exclaimed, her enthusiasm unmistakably authentic. "I would be thrilled to meet her. What a perfect coincidence that she should arrive today." The Queen Consort's reaction was so spontaneous and warm that it immediately put everyone at ease. As Dame Judi approached, supported lightly by Margaret's arm, the years seemed to fall away from her elegant frame. Despite her age, she moved with the grace and presence that had made her such a compelling stage performer. Her eyes, though not as sharp as they once were due to her macular degeneration, sparkled with intelligence and good humor. "Your Majesty," Dame Judi said as she offered a gentle curtsy, her voice carrying that distinctive warmth that had made her beloved by audiences worldwide. "What a pleasure to encounter you here among these wonderful memories." Her greeting was perfect in its balance of respect and natural friendliness. Queen Camilla stepped forward with none of the stiffness that sometimes marked royal encounters. "Dame Judi, the pleasure is entirely mine. I've been such an admirer of your work for so many years. To meet you here, surrounded by this celebration of British theater, feels quite magical." She reached out to take Dame Judi's hands in her own, a gesture that was both warm and respectful. The initial formalities completed, both women seemed to relax into a more natural conversation. Queen Camilla gestured toward the display they had been examining. "I was just admiring your Lady Bracknell costume. I remember seeing that production at the National Theatre. Your performance was absolutely brilliant, the way you brought such depth to what could have been merely a comic role." Dame Judi's face brightened at the memory. "Oh my goodness, that takes me back. I was terrified of that role initially, you know. Lady Bracknell is so iconic. So many legendary actresses have made their mark with her. I spent weeks trying to find my own interpretation, something that would honor the tradition while bringing something fresh to it." She paused, studying the costume. "It's rather strange seeing it here, like encountering an old friend in an unexpected place." The conversation that followed was remarkable for its naturalness and depth. Both women seemed to forget about the cameras, the officials, and the formal nature of the setting. They were simply two people who shared a deep appreciation for the arts, discussing their mutual passion with a kind of enthusiasm that transcended social boundaries. Queen Camilla confided that she had always harbored a secret wish to try acting herself. "When I was younger, before life took me in other directions, I used to dream of the theater. There's something so appealing about the idea of becoming someone else entirely, of exploring different aspects of human nature through character." She laughed self-consciously. "I imagine I would have been absolutely terrible at it, but the dream was lovely." Dame Judi was charmed by this admission. "Oh, but Your Majesty, you perform every day in a way. Royal duties require such a range of skills, such sensitivity to different audiences and situations. You have to be authentic while also being what each occasion requires. That's not so different from what we do on stage, just with different costumes and scripts." This observation seemed to resonate deeply with Queen Camilla. She had never thought of her royal role in theatrical terms, but Dame Judi's perspective offered a new way of understanding the challenges and skills required in public life. "You know, you're quite right. There are days when I feel as though I'm preparing for a performance, considering not just what to say, but how to say it, what impression to create." Their conversation moved to the broader theme of the exhibition, the evolution of women's roles in British theater. Dame Judi spoke passionately about the changes she had witnessed during her career. "When I started, there were so many limitations, so many roles that were simply not available to women of a certain age or type. I've been fortunate to see those barriers gradually breaking down, though there's still work to be done. Queen Camilla nodded thoughtfully. That resonates with my own experience, though in a different context. The role of royal women has evolved tremendously over the decades. There's more freedom now to pursue individual interests and causes to have a voice beyond ceremonial duties. She paused, then added with a smile, though I suspect the costumes are rather more comfortable in theater than they are in royal life. Dame Judi laughed delightedly at this observation. Oh, that depends entirely on the production. I've worn some absolutely punishing costumes over the years. Corsets that made breathing an adventure, headdresses that weighed more than a small child. But yes, there's something to be said for being able to take off the costume at the end of the evening and return to being oneself. The conversation naturally turned to their shared experiences of public scrutiny and media attention. Both women had learned to navigate the challenges of living life in the public eye, though from very different perspectives. Dame Judi spoke about the pressure of maintaining standards while evolving as an artist, while Queen Camilla shared her thoughts on finding authenticity within the constraints of protocol. The key, Dame Judi observed, is remembering that behind all the public roles, we're still just people with the same hopes, fears, and dreams as everyone else. The moment you lose touch with that humanity, whether on stage or in public life, you lose the connection that makes what you do meaningful. This philosophy clearly resonated with Queen Camilla, who had often struggled with the balance between public duty and personal authenticity. Dame Judi's words offered a framework for understanding how to maintain genuine connection while fulfilling public responsibilities. As their conversation continued, other visitors to the exhibition began to notice the animated discussion between the two women. However, rather than intruding, people seemed to instinctively respect the special nature of the moment, maintaining a discreet distance while observing with obvious delight this unexpected meeting of two British icons. The palace staff, initially concerned about timing and protocol, found themselves equally captivated by the genuine warmth of the encounter. This was clearly not a routine royal meeting, but something more authentic and meaningful. Both women seemed energized by their conversation, each bringing out interesting thoughts and perspectives in the other. Margaret watched from a nearby position, delighted to see Dame Judi so engaged and animated. The actress had been somewhat tired lately, the weight of her years occasionally showing, but this encounter had rekindled the spark that had always made her such compelling company. James Crawford, the deputy curator, made mental notes about this encounter, recognizing that he was witnessing something special that would become part of the exhibition's own story. The meeting between Queen Camilla and Dame Judi was creating a new layer of meaning for the celebration of women in British theater. As their conversation continued to flow naturally from topic to topic, both women seemed surprised by how much they were enjoying each other's company. What had begun as a formal introduction was evolving into something approaching friendship, built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and genuine appreciation for each other's contributions to British public life. The moment was captured not just by the official photographers, but in the hearts of everyone present who recognized they were witnessing something rare and beautiful. Two remarkable women connecting authentically across the boundaries of their different worlds, united by their humanity and their dedication to serving others. As their conversation deepened, Queen Camilla and Dame Judi found themselves moving naturally through the exhibition together, their initial formal meeting having evolved into something much more personal and meaningful. The Queen Consort had quietly indicated to her staff that she was in no hurry to conclude this encounter, and Dame Judi seemed equally content to extend what had been intended as a brief introduction. They paused before a display featuring photographs from various royal command performances throughout the decades. Dame Judi pointed to a black and white image from 1982, where a much younger version of herself could be seen curtsying to Queen Elizabeth II after a performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream. "I remember that evening so clearly," Dame Judi said, her voice soft with memory. "I was absolutely terrified, not of the performance, mind you, but of meeting her late majesty afterward. I had practiced my curtsy for weeks, worried I might trip or say something inappropriate. She smiled at the memory. Of course, the queen was absolutely lovely, so genuinely interested in the production and so knowledgeable about theater history. Queen Camilla studied the photograph with obvious emotion. She truly loved the theater, you know? People often focused on her other interests, but she had such a deep appreciation for the arts. She once told me that she envied actors their ability to explore different personalities and experiences to live multiple lives through their craft. The queen consort's voice carried a note of sadness and fondness as she remembered her predecessor. Dame Judi reached out instinctively and touched Queen Camilla's arm in a gesture of comfort and understanding. She was remarkable. We were all so fortunate to have her support of the arts for so many years. That patronage made such a difference to countless artists and organizations. The simple, heartfelt gesture seemed to deepen the connection between the two women. Moving to another display, they found themselves examining artifacts from Dame Judi's work with the Royal Shakespeare Company. A worn script from her performance as Cleopatra lay open to a page covered with her handwritten notes in the margins. The careful annotations revealed the depth of thought and preparation that went into each role. Cleopatra was one of the most challenging roles of my career, Dame Judi explained, studying her own notes with interest. The complexity of the character, the weight of Shakespeare's language, the physical demands of the staging. I was in my 40s when I first played her, and I remember thinking I was too young to truly understand such a character. When I revisited the role 20 years later, I realized I'd been right, but that the journey of understanding is what makes theater so endlessly fascinating. Queen Camilla was fascinated by this insight into the artistic process. That's something I've never considered, how roles might reveal different meanings at different stages of one's life. Do you find that your approach to familiar characters changes as you gain life experience? Absolutely, Dame Judi replied enthusiastically. Every time you return to a great role, you bring everything you've learned and experienced since you last played it. The words remain the same, but your understanding of their meaning evolves. It's rather like reading a favorite book at different periods of your life and discovering new depths each time. This concept seemed to resonate strongly with Queen Camilla, who had often reflected on how her own understanding of duty and service had evolved over the years. That's beautifully put. I suppose we're all constantly reinterpreting our roles based on our growing understanding of life. Their conversation was interrupted gently by James Crawford, who approached with obvious reluctance to disturb such an engaging discussion. Forgive me, Your Majesty, Dame Judi, but I wondered if you might be interested in seeing something rather special that we have in our private collection room. It's not part of the main exhibition, but given your interest in theatrical history, both women expressed immediate curiosity about this mysterious additional collection. James led them through a discreet doorway into a smaller, more intimate space that housed items too fragile or valuable for public display. Here, in climate-controlled cases, were some of the most precious artifacts of British theatrical history. Dame Judi gasped as she recognized several items from her own early career that she had thought were lost forever. There was the program from her very first professional performance, signed by the entire cast, and a letter of encouragement from Sir John Gielgud after her debut in London. Most surprisingly, there was a small, leather-bound notebook that she had carried throughout her early career, filled with observations about technique, character development, and the craft of acting. "My goodness, I haven't seen this in decades," Dame Judi said, her voice thick with emotion. "I thought it had been lost in a house move years ago. How on earth did you acquire it?" James explained that it had been donated anonymously by someone who had known her in her early career and wanted to ensure these precious records were preserved for theatrical history. Queen Camilla watched Dame Judi's emotional reaction with evident sympathy and understanding. "It must be quite overwhelming to encounter these memories so unexpectedly," she said gently. "I can only imagine how it would feel to rediscover such personal artifacts from one's younger self." Dame Judi nodded, carefully opening the notebook to a random page. The handwriting was unmistakably her own, but younger, more rushed, filled with the passionate observations of a developing artist. "Listen to this," she said, reading aloud. "The key to great acting is not to become someone else, but to find the aspects of that someone else that already exist within you and to let them flourish honestly." Queen Camilla was struck by the wisdom in those words, written by a young woman who would go on to become one of Britain's most celebrated actresses. That's profound advice, and it applies to so much more than acting. In any role we play in life, we must find the authentic parts of ourselves that align with what's required. The private collection room provided a more intimate setting for their conversation, away from the formal atmosphere of the main exhibition. Here, surrounded by the most precious artifacts of theatrical history, both women seemed to relax even further, sharing stories and insights with increasing openness. Dame Judi spoke about the loneliness that sometimes came with a life dedicated to art, the sacrifices required to pursue excellence, and the joy of connecting with audiences across generations. She shared her thoughts on aging in a youth-obsessed industry and how she had learned to find new types of roles and challenges as she grew older. Queen Camilla, in turn, spoke about the challenges of finding her own voice within the constraints of royal protocol, the criticism she had faced over the years, and her determination to use her platform to support causes she believed in. She shared her thoughts on duty versus personal fulfillment and how she had learned to find meaning in service to others. What emerged from their extended conversation was a remarkable similarity in their approaches to life and work. Both women had learned to navigate public scrutiny with grace, to find authenticity within formal constraints, and to use their positions to support others. They had both experienced criticism and praise, triumph and disappointment, and had emerged from these experiences with wisdom and resilience. Margaret, observing from a discreet distance, was moved by the obvious connection forming between the two women. She had rarely seen Dame Judi so engaged and animated in recent months, and the Queen Consort seemed equally energized by the encounter. As they prepared to return to the main exhibition space, both women seemed reluctant to end their conversation. What had begun as a formal royal visit had transformed into something much more meaningful, a genuine meeting of minds and hearts between two remarkable women who had found unexpected common ground. James Crawford recognized that this encounter was becoming part of the exhibition's own history, a living example of how theater brings people together across all boundaries of class, position, and background. The warmth and authenticity of the meeting between Queen Camilla and Dame Judi would become one of the most cherished memories of the entire event. As they walked back toward the main exhibition space, both women carried with them a new understanding of each other and a deepened appreciation for the power of genuine human connection in an often superficial world. As Queen Camilla and Dame Judi emerged from the private collection room and returned to the main exhibition space, the atmosphere seemed charged with the warmth of their extended conversation. Other visitors to the exhibition had begun to gather at a respectful distance, sensing that they were witnessing something special, but not wanting to intrude upon the obvious connection that had formed between the two women. The final section of the exhibition, which they now approached together, focused on the future of British theater and the new generation of actresses carrying forward the traditions they both cherished. Interactive displays allowed visitors to hear from young performers about their dreams and aspirations, their challenges, and hopes for the evolution of their craft. Dame Judi was particularly moved by a video interview with a young actress who spoke about the importance of older performers as mentors and role models. "When I was starting out," the young woman said in the recording, "I used to watch Dame Judi Dench performances over and over, not just to admire her technique, but to understand how she brought such humanity to every character. She showed me that great acting isn't about showing off, it's about truth and connection." Queen Camilla noticed the tears that gathered in Dame Judi's eyes as they listened to these words. How wonderful it must be to know that your work continues to inspire new generations, she said softly. That's a legacy that extends far beyond any individual performance or award. Dame Judi composed herself with the practiced grace of someone accustomed to public emotion. It's both humbling and encouraging, she replied. One hopes that the work means something beyond the moment of performance, but to hear it expressed so eloquently by someone just beginning their journey, it reminds me why we do what we do. Their conversation was gently interrupted by the arrival of several young drama students from a local performing arts college who had been invited to attend the exhibition opening. These aspiring actors and actresses have been waiting patiently for an opportunity to meet Dame Judi, and James Crawford thought this might be the perfect moment for introductions. The interaction that followed was magical to witness. Dame Judi's entire demeanor changed as she engaged with these young people, her voice becoming animated and encouraging as she answered their questions about technique, career development, and the challenges of professional acting. Her generosity with her time and wisdom was remarkable, treating each student as though their questions were the most important thing in the world. Queen Camilla watched this interaction with obvious delight, observing how naturally Dame Judi shifted into the role of mentor and teacher. The queen consort found herself drawn into the conversation as well, asking the students about their own experiences and aspirations. Her genuine interest and warm encouragement clearly meant a great deal to these young performers. One particularly bold student asked Dame Judi about her approach to memorizing lines, a practical question that elicited a detailed and helpful response about the importance of understanding character motivation as an aid to memory. Another wanted to know about stage fright and how to manage performance anxiety. Dame Judi's answers were filled with practical wisdom gained from decades of experience. The key, Dame Judi explained to the group, is to remember that the audience wants you to succeed. They've come hoping to be moved, entertained, challenged. They're on your side from the moment you step onto the stage. The nervousness you feel is energy that you can transform into connection with them. Queen Camilla added her own perspective on managing public nervousness, drawing parallels between performance anxiety and the challenges of public speaking in royal duties. Her insights about breathing techniques and mental preparation resonated with the students, who were surprised and delighted to receive performance advice from the queen consort. As the impromptu masterclass continued, photographers captured these candid moments of intergenerational connection. The images would later become some of the most treasured records of the exhibition opening, showing not just formal poses but genuine moments of learning and sharing. Eventually, the demands of schedule required that the informal gathering begin to conclude. James Crawford approached discreetly to remind Queen Camilla of her next engagement, while Margaret gently suggested that Dame Judi might benefit from some rest after such an active morning. However, before their formal farewells, both women seemed reluctant to end what had become such a meaningful encounter. Queen Camilla turned to Dame Judi with obvious sincerity. "This has been one of the most delightful mornings I've had in ages. Your insights about art, life, and the importance of authenticity have given me so much to think about." Dame Judi was equally moved by the connection they had formed. "Your Majesty, meeting you today has been truly special. I've been so impressed by your genuine engagement with the arts and your obvious care for the people around you. It's clear that your support means a great deal to everyone working in theater and the broader cultural community." What happened next surprised everyone present, including the two women themselves. Moving beyond formal protocol, Queen Camilla reached out and embraced Dame Judi in a gentle, heartfelt hug. The gesture was spontaneous and genuine, reflecting the real friendship that had emerged from their morning together. Dame Judi returned the embrace warmly, and for a moment, titles and positions seemed to disappear entirely. They were simply two women who had found unexpected kinship and mutual respect, sharing a moment of genuine human connection that transcended all formal boundaries. The photographers present captured this touching moment, But even more importantly, everyone who witnessed it understood that they had seen something rare and beautiful, authentic emotion and connection in an often formal and distant world. As they finally prepared to part ways, Queen Camilla extended an invitation that surprised even her own staff. "Dame Judi, I do hope you'll consider joining me for tea sometime soon. I would love to continue our conversation in a more private setting, perhaps discuss some ways we might work together to support young artists." Dame Judi accepted the invitation with obvious pleasure, already looking forward to furthering their newfound friendship. They exchanged contact information through their respective assistants, making concrete plans for a future meeting that both women anticipated with genuine enthusiasm. The formal conclusion of the exhibition opening proceeded smoothly, but the highlight of the day had clearly been the unexpected meeting between Queen Camilla and Dame Judi. As they went their separate ways, both women carried with them not just pleasant memories, but a real sense of having found a kindred spirit. In the days that followed, news of their warm encounter spread throughout the British cultural community and beyond. The photographs and videos of their meeting became symbolic of the best aspects of British society. The respect for tradition combined with genuine human warmth, the celebration of artistic achievement, and the power of authentic connection to bridge any social divide. The exhibition itself was deemed a tremendous success, but many visitors commented that the real magic had been witnessing the spontaneous friendship that blossomed between two of Britain's most respected public figures. Their meeting became part of the exhibition's own story, an example of how art brings people together and creates lasting bonds. For Queen Camilla, the encounter reinforced her commitment to supporting the arts and reminded her of the importance of approaching her royal duties with genuine curiosity and openness. For Dame Judi, the meeting provided renewed energy and enthusiasm for her continued work as both performer and mentor to younger artists. Most importantly, their connection demonstrated that even in a world often characterized by division and formality, authentic human connection remains possible when people approach each other with openness, respect, and genuine interest. Their warm moment at Hampton Court Palace became a reminder of the simple but profound power of two people recognizing and celebrating the best qualities in each other. The story of their meeting would be retold many times in the years that followed, becoming part of the folklore of both the royal family and British theater. It served as an inspiration to others about the importance of remaining open to unexpected friendships and the magical moments that can emerge when people connect authentically across the boundaries of their different worlds. Their friendship, begun so spontaneously in the historic halls of Hampton Court Palace, would continue to flourish in the months and years that followed, providing both women with a precious connection that enriched their lives and served as an example to others of the enduring power of genuine human warmth and understanding.